Nerderotic.com.
Sony officially responds to Spider-Man deal. Kevin Feige is out. Now, there was a Twitter statement from Sony last night, and they are doing more public negotiating, and this is not going to work out well for them. I guess there was boycotts of Sony. Listen, I love the Disney Schadenfreude. Kevin Feige took a loss, a well-earned one, in my opinion, considering his act with Marvel Phase 4, but Tom Rothman and Amy Pascal are not better alternatives. But the key takeaway here is not what Sony said, it's what they didn't say, and they won't say. Spider-Man has left the MCU. This article might confuse the normies. He's not coming back to the MCU. He's not part of the MCU. They will not be able to acknowledge the MCU. Disney and Sony have parted ways, but Sony doesn't want you, the normie, to know that. That's why Venom did well. Midnight's Edge did a video on this. A lot of people went to Venom thinking they were seeing an MCU film. Oh, it was somewhat attached. No, it wasn't. And that's what Sony wants you to continue to think. They want to try to trick people into thinking they're watching an MCU film. A billion-dollar company. But that's how dumb they think you are. That's how dumb Tom Rothman thinks you are. And Venom made $800 million worldwide, so that's about $200 million less than Spider-Man Far From Home. But they didn't spend half as much on that film as they did Spider-Man Far From Home. And Venom is the best you're going to get from Tom Rothman. From MovieWeb. After Disney and Sony talks have apparently broken down over the rights and usage of the Spider-Man property, Spider-Man might be leaving the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sony has officially come forward to respond to the whole mess. And these are their tweets from last night. Again, listen to the wording on this. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow him to work on an IP they don't own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped us on, which we will continue. And the key word there is continue. Nobody is saying, not even Disney is saying that Spider-Man has left the MCU, because I guess Disney is hoping they can work something out, and D23 is coming up, and Disney's had a bad week prior to D23. We have the accusations from an accountant who worked for them for 18 years saying they cooked the books at the parks, making me think that they might have cooked them some other place. Well, I said that in my video. You can check out the link right here. But the Access Media has got their panties in a bunch right now because they don't know who to protect on this one. I guess they're going to favor Disney, but Sony's getting a lot of criticism right now, and they should. But there's two different camps on this one, and honestly, I'm in the camp of Spider-Man. I want to protect the character of Spider-Man, but he has been gone for a long time. And the most disappointing part of this is MCU's Spider-Man has been just as bad to me as the Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, I know some of you like it, but it is nowhere near the comic book Spider-Man. That's why I call him Spider-Boy. I didn't love Homecoming at all, and Far From Home was a minor improvement, but it was still a bad Spider-Man film. Now, I like Tom Holland in Infinity War and Civil War, and a little bit in Endgame. I don't think he's terrible, but I'm a Tobey guy. Spider-Man 1 and especially Spider-Man 2 are great superhero films for their time. And hey, we're going to get a callback to that from Sony, because remember, the one thing said about Venom by most critics was it felt like a throwback to 2004, because we have two people running Spider-Man right now that are 20th century producers. Amy Pascal, the producer of Ghostbusters 2016, Tom Rothman, partially responsible for sewing Deadpool's mouth shut, among other things like X-Men Last Stand and X-Men Origins Wolverine. This guy doesn't like superhero films, and he's cheap, and that showed with Venom. Venom was a 6-month production. TV shows take longer. Awful Game of Thrones took longer on one episode, and well, they had pretty much the same result. Actually, Venom was better than Game of Thrones Season 8, but Venom was better because of Tom Hardy. All right, we'll get to a little bit of this article here. It was announced earlier today that a deal between Disney and Sony to keep Spider-Man at Marvel Studios had come to a standstill. It sounded like Tom Holland's Peter Parker would no longer be a part of the MCU. Some were holding out hope that things would get worked out, but it appears that Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige will no longer be a producer on any upcoming Spider-Man projects. Again, notice this wording. We're just removing Kevin Feige, but we're not saying anything official about the MCU. Sony has officially gone public, responding to the standoff between their company and Disney to keep the web slinger in the Marvel Studios family. And what Sony doesn't understand is 21st century negotiating in public isn't going to work. Again, I am not a fan of what Kevin Feige has been doing with Marvel Phase 4 and the MCU, but if you take this guy on, Sony, you are going to lose. Ask DC how it feels to take on Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige is widely known to be one of the most passive-aggressive and effective producers in Hollywood. He's got those opie good looks, but he is a shark. You don't become a high-ranking producer in Hollywood without giving up a part of your soul. Sony's public response was rare for the studio, but many Marvel fans had started to boycott the company shortly after the news of Kevin Feige's departure was announced. Though that news came prematurely in the statement, Sony clarifies that they are disappointed with the way things have turned out, and they place the blame squarely on Disney for pulling Kevin Feige away from the next Spider-Man sequel. So Disney knows when to pull out, and Disney pulled Kevin Feige off of the project because they weren't willing to give up as much money. Marvel pretty much did all the work with this. I mean, we got to be clear there. I wasn't a fan of these films, but Marvel did all the damn work. And Sony has really just screwed the pooch on this one. And Marvel and Disney came in and saved Sony's ass. You know, Venom initially was a film that I enjoyed, and so was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But when I see their impact on my beloved Spider-Man, I enjoy them a lot less, and I start hating these movies, kind of like Star Trek 2009. At the time, I liked it, but then it brought us JJ and Alex Kurtzman Trek, and now I hate it. We see the impact over time because of intellectual property law and egos and greed. And this is why we should have never sold our soul to the devil by allowing these big companies to come in and take our beloved franchises and use them to push their agendas and use them and split them up and then just throw them away, and we get stuck with ashes afterwards. So if any young buck is watching me in the future 20, 30 years from now, and some big company wants to come in and buy My Hero Academia, just say no. Beg the creator to say no. Keep it pure. You don't need to see a movie. Take the words of the creator of Deadpool, Rob Liefeld. Tom Rothman single-handedly kept Deadpool from getting made at Fox. Not a fan, scratches Sony off the list. Sony went about this all wrong, and you and I, the fan of Spider-Man, are going to pay the price because we're never going to get a proper Spider-Man now because they gave Kevin Feige a very public loss over the last 24 to 48 hours, and he won't forget that. So now we're going to get a Disney-Sony war, and again, you and I, the fan, will lose. And it's beyond the normal reasons of corporate greed, corporate mergers, intellectual property law, and it has everything to do with a few producers with giant egos, and a couple of them don't even give a crap about Spider-Man. And what I think will happen is Tom Holland will play out his contract, we'll get 2 more films with him, they'll probably kill off Peter Parker, bring in Miles Morales, bring in the Spider-Verse to mirror the multiverse in the MCU to keep the confusion going because they really do think you and I, the fan, are that stupid. And let's be frank, we have been in the past. So we need to kind of put our foot down at this point and use Doomcock's great hashtag, without respect, we reject. And I really will find it very easy to reject Sony Spider-Man because I think it's going to be a lot more like Amazing Spider-Man than Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Now, if you want to really bring back Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, and do Spider-Man 4. Then you can take my money. And listen, I agree with all the people in the camp of Disney Schadenfreude. But we need to realize once Kevin Feige and the MCU took its loss, we are left with Spider-Man in the control of a person who was partially responsible for sewing Deadpool's mouth shut and the producer of Ghostbusters 2016. So it will be equally as woke as it would have been with Disney. Sorry to dash your hopes on that one. So I'll leave you with that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day, and may the free folks sing songs of your greatness.
Nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.